Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for choosing the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast, the podcast that loves fruit. Thank you for hanging out with me, Fee, on a podcast that is just me yapping and yammering about a smorgasbord of topics with a myriad of theories and perspectives, in addition to my interpretations and opinions. Too much of nothing and a little bit of everything, justifying randomness. This is what the Cotton Candy Clouds is all about. Welcome. I hope you're ready for the pod because it's been a week and it feels so much longer. Some kind of way. I feel like I've been gone for 2 weeks. Have I? Hell. Anyway, I did turn 36. And wow. You know, I guess I can say that getting older is, first of all, beautiful because I'm alive, growing, flourishing, changing, or unchanging, whatever. But also, it's like so real because it's like the older you get, the more in tune you are with your aging process. Like when I was turning 7, when I was turning 10, I was an overthinker, of course, like I am now, but I wasn't thinking about when I was 5, when I was 10, if that makes sense. But now the overthinking is not about the future. It's about the past. And I just find that so fascinating. And it's like, sometimes people are always reflecting on their inner child and how their inner child, saved them and all this kind of stuff. And I still don't really know, who is inner child Fee. What I do know is that the child Felicia was what she was, way better than who I am today. Not to say that I'm bad, but it's just she had her head on right. She was focused. She was driven. She would curse me out, probably at the different times and ages that I've gone through. And I said, Lord, some people, their child version was almost the adult or matured version of themselves. Right now I'm kind of in like a middle, not cesspool, let's not say that, Lord Jesus, but a melting pot of sorts, where I'm like, I'm feeling like I was at 13 and I'm feeling like I was at 21. Like, and again, I don't reflect on the future or concentrate or hyper focus or anything on the future as much as I did when I was younger, because I think now it's like the future's future. It's like, what is the future? I don't know. It's interesting. Getting older is interesting. And when you've eliminated like outside things that can affect you in a negative way or impact you negatively, getting older is so much fun and it's so interesting, and you realize how much you can do things and you should do things, and you realize, people, places, and things are temporary. Like it just really changes you. What you value changes or may not, or what you value is more highlighted even. I don't know. It's just so much. So shout out to people getting older and loving it. Shout out to my Taurus, and thank you so much for tuning into the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast. In honor of Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, quote of the day is a Vietnamese proverb. When eating a fruit, think of the person who planted the tree. When eating the fruit, think of the person who planted the tree. This is a Vietnamese proverb. Love that. And speaking of fruit, have y'all heard of Del Monte Foods? Yes, the one who do the canned veggies and the fruits. They went bankrupt, right? So them going bankrupt, and apparently they filed for bankruptcy last year, and it just got approved because of like different controversies or something. They had to go to court and all this stuff for it to be approved anyway. So Del Monte is bankrupt, or filed for bankruptcy. It was approved, and due to them doing so, millions of how do I word this? The articles are posted on the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast on Facebook, Black Sky. and Twitter. But basically, peach tree farmers have to destroy the peach tree trees, because apparently peaches do not have, once they're picked, their value depreciates very quickly. I guess they don't stay as fresh for long, right? So that's the whole thing about canning peaches, what Del Monte does. And because of the profit of Del Monte, the land that Del Monte owns with his peach tree situation, all the peach tree farmers working with Del Monte have to destroy those trees. They can't try to, take them down and sell them or something, apparently. And again, it's in the article, because I'm not going through that article. It's so layered, and it's a good article, but you'll get into it, right? But I'm paraphrasing for you. I'm surmising, if you will. But these peach tree farmers have to destroy these trees because the value of the peach, once it's taken off the tree, depreciates in such a way that it ultimately rots the peaches. Now, Del Monte was in the middleman of, canning these peaches. But because they can no longer can, they have to destroy the peach trees. Apparently, it's what it is. Of course, as they should be, those farmers are outraged, saddened. And there was some situation, I wonder if it was in the article, because I read two articles. The one before this one I'm sharing with you. But the one before was saying how there was a canning company that was trying to maybe take half of the profit. I mean, profits, but take half of their company in terms of the canning process. But because the canning process apparently for fruits, for each thing, is so complicated and stuff, it's only a few, and they had no capacity to take over this peach canning situation. And so crazily, okay, these people, and I think it's in the millions of trees, have to destroy those millions of trees. And it's like, I don't know, that's so, I think for me, I'm going back to the beginning, because what it means is that there's a company that monopolized on land. They monopolized on peaches. They monopolized on farming for these things. And some way along the way, even though they're a corporation, they had to file for bankruptcy. And now, because they monopolize so much land, crop, etc., people are affected and destroyed, and it's like, woo, Jesus. And this is why monopoly shouldn't exist in capitalism, but that's a whole other different situation. Anyway, it was so fascinating because, again, if you're following the pod on social media, which I hope you are, because it makes it a lot easier for you to understand where I'm coming from, there are two headlines. One headline that was like, Cuba has some drones that they got and they ready to rumble. Okay, again, I'm paraphrasing. This came out, what was it? Today is the 20th. I think this came out like the 16th or something. And then the next headline that came out a few days later, like literally either a day or 2 days later, it was like Russia, a company in Russia that makes drones, is now out of money. And I just feel like the conspiratorial and propaganda of those two headlines coming out. First of all, when I saw the first headline, which was Cuba has these drones that they ready to rumble or whatever, I literally laughed, because I'm like, first of all, how does that make any sense? Like, with everything that's going on, how would it make sense that Cuba would, out the blue, be like, hey, we got some drones and we gonna drop stuff on you? For what? Like, And then for the other article to be posted about how, Russia has this company that makes drones and they ain't got no money and they got the drones or whatever. It's like, why are we finding out about Russian drone companies? Is it because of the war that they started, or like what is business is that again to the United States of America at this time? And sometimes when it comes to headlines and when it comes to the news, sometimes I'm wondering, and this is how I know it's propaganda, sometimes I'm wondering, like, with everything that's going on here, boots on the ground, domestically, why do I need to know? Why do the people need to know this shit? Because that's what it is. And I just know that in the end, it really does have something to do with them wanting you to, number one, feel a great deal of fear. And I shouldn't say you per se, I should say us, the United States. They want us to feel a great deal of fear, and they want us to keep us distracted, because if you're worried about drones that again may or may not come or whatever the fuck, you won't be concerned about the thousands of women who within this week alone have been murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. You wouldn't be concerned about all the children who died in cars because their parents, and I think it's homicide, left them in the car, in 80, 90 degree weather. That's the real news that we need to be focused on. You wouldn't be worried about the fact that the literacy rate has increased. You wouldn't be worried about the things that matter in terms of how intelligence spreads within the United States. So, speaking of intelligence, okay, so yesterday, and I was trying to do this thing where on the pod I don't too much focus on time, but listen, okay, but yesterday in the United States of America, okay, or un-United States, I should say, for sure, for this, was voting, right? It was a primary election in which people are choosing within their, what's the word? Within their party, what candidate they would like to proceed to the November elections, right, of 2026. And so it was so fascinating. I'm in Georgia, okay, the state of Georgia in the, again, United States of America. And so it was so fascinating to me because the results, one thing you'll learn about, I guess the mood of the people as it relates to what's going on in the world, in the nation, is how they vote. That will direct you into what people are genuinely feeling, because it's a lot of people who scream things from the mountaintops and, do all these posts and just talking, Lord. They won't close their mouth. It's flies, bugs, all types of shit in their mouth, because they just keep talking about what they're going to do and what people should do. But when it comes to that voting, you see that they're not really about that, or, they're just talking to hide their real desires within their country, within the political systems, within how they feel about humans as a whole. And, yesterday was no different. There's going to be some runoffs in June. And it's like, okay, girl, one thing about it is also in terms of the Democratic Party, people do this thing where, first of all, I just feel like people pedestalize Democrats themselves, and even people who outside of the Democratic Party pedestalize Democrats. And they do this thing where it's like, okay, we've got to find, quote unquote, the most important, the best, the perfection is important. Like, it's just like they have to find a candidate that does not exist, basically. And they're, of course, not going to find them. And so in doing that, they cast their votes. They cause the votes, of course, to split, and just no one's on the same one accord. And then they get mad at the results. And then this is a very bizarre thing. They become petty. Now, in politics, being petty is very, very, very dangerous, because especially in the voting booth, because it's like you're being petty, but people's lives are at stake. This is life and death for thousands and hundreds of people, millions and hundreds of thousands of, people. And so it's like you getting in the booth and being petty because you don't like this Democratic, politician. It's just like, okay, woo. But anyway, I'm pleased, and I'm just hoping that in November, people can do what they need to do. Another thing is a lot of people don't even know what the things are, like nonpartisan. So, when you're on the ballot and it's nonpartisan, you don't know what party the persons are. You don't know that aspect, right? You're just voting for someone. Hopefully you've done your due diligence and research on the person. And I don't know, about that nonpartisan vote for the Georgia Supreme Court justice. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And people just scare me. It's like they want to live. They want to be able to do these things, have these freedoms. And then you're not putting those people who could support that for you in the world, or at least the nation, your state, whatever. You're not putting those people in place for what? It's like, why? Why must we all suffer? Because people are being petty or people are being hateful. It just does not make sense. But one thing I did think about yesterday, and I was like, wow, because, and I don't know if this is, I'm sure in terms of this history, I don't know, to be honest, but I was just reflecting on how May is spring, and spring is the birth or rebirth of things. It is the beginning of things, and that is when the primaries take place. And then, this is the season where things, and by the way, we're still in spring, don't ever forget it, but this is the season when the new can be approached. The new is blooming, flowering, if you will. And so then in November, now we still talking about voting. In November, it's like that's the place of death. That's when things are done or settling. And that's when you have your election. And it's like, that's interesting to me, the processes, Taurus to Scorpio, spring to fall. It's like, okay, there's some kind of thing here. All right. I don't know what's going on, but it's a thing, we can think of. I don't know one thing I feel like it should be illegal for these politicians to advertise on television. There are some that are decent. Okay. But for the most part, it's all torturous. Advertisements of politicians bragging about their alliance with the current president is crazy to me. Like, that is truly, the things that have happened, the things that are done, the quote unquote wars that have started, and you're bragging that you're aligned with this person and this party and these people. Let's take a metaphysical break. Okay, let's take a metaphysical break. All right. Incense of the season, speaking of spring, is jasmine. It enhances the mood. It's known to reduce stress, improve emotional balance, and promote positivity. Love that. Okay. Crystal of the month for May is Shungite, and it is a natural source of fullerenes. It protects against electromagnetic radiation, restores and recharges good physical health. And it does to me. It really does to me. Going back to voting. I don't, what? I ain't even going to do that. I was just going to say that something was going on in my county. And obviously they had gotten it together by the time I went to the polls. But I did have my Shungite on me at the polls because I said, whatever technological things are happening. Mind you, I didn't even know it was some troubles. Anyway, we can discuss that at a later date, okay? Word of the day is Pother. I love this because this is what we do here. At least I'm doing it to myself when we're discussing stuff. But also, this is what is social media. Hell. Okay. Pother is a noun, Pother. It means commotion, uproar, heated discussions, debates, or arguments, fuss. This third definition for pother is a choking or suffocating cloud as of smoke or dust, which I think coincides as the physical definition for an uproar. You know what I mean? Or a heated discussion. And there has to be a word for this. I love when words are like, this is what the word means in an esoteric, almost spiritual or mental way. And then this is what it means in the physical sense. Like, okay, pother means an uproar, a debate or heated discussion, fussing. But pother means a choking or suffocating cloud or smoke with dust. It's like both of those things you feel the same. I love words like that, where the feeling of the word coincides with the physical definition and the esoteric definition. Do y'all get what I'm trying to say? Okay. Anyway, book of the month is, and y'all gonna fault for me for this. I fault myself for this. Listen, I had a ball for my birthday. You know, I turned 36. My goodness, don't fault me. I've cracked open book of the month, but I haven't continuously cracked it open. I'm gonna do it. And I said to myself too, as I get, this podcast to its smoothest, sexiest, most satisfactory level, I said, you know what? If I don't finish a book of the month for 1 month, I'm going to continue it on into the next month. How about that? Anyway, book of the month for May so far is The Neighbor Favor. And this is by Kristina Forrest. Okay. So again, purchase it online. Get all the information on this podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky. You can do it. Now, speaking of books, something fun that's happening. Okay, and I'm excited about this. And I need y'all to tell every teacher you know or whatever, because school is damn near over at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, some schools end in June, but for most places, right now is the end. So, something is happening. Pizza Hut is bringing back their Book It Summer Reading Enrichment Program. And I don't know if y'all remember this. I don't know what age group listens to this podcast for the most part. Okay, I myself am a millennial, so this is something, and you know what? I'm trying to think. I think Book It started in the 80s, actually. Anyway, my point is this, which is still millennial. Anyway, okay, my point is this. Pizza Hut's Book It program, summer reading program, enrichment program, if you will, is when you read a whole bunch of books, you get to a certain levels, and then you get a ticket to get you a free personal pan pizza. Okay. And so this is from preschool to 6th grade and will run from June 1st to August 31st. Again, more information on that is posted on the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Blue Sky. But basically, your children will read some books, hit a milestone, get their coupon for their free personal pan pizza, cheese of help. You know what I'm saying? And I just love that. Who don't love pizza? Who doesn't love books? Hopefully, because we do need to encourage children to read more. I got to get deeper in some of these subjects, because illiteracy in this community, in this nation, when I tell you, honey, it's spooky. I think if you are in any teacher right now, without a shadow of a doubt, there is a true issue. Okay, there is a situation, because at the end of the day, it's only so much the children can do, and what's being revealed about illiteracy is that it's the adults that are suffering. Because how can the children learn when the adults can't either and don't know anything? I'm keeping it short and sweet today. I'm still enjoying. This is the last day of tourist season. I've enjoyed May so far. First of all, let's just put that out there, and I hope y'all have as well. I hope y'all doing all right out there. It's spring. You know what I'm saying? Come on, it's birth, it's rebirth, it's the new. Okay, but I've been enjoying myself for tourist season, for May, for spring, for me. Again, I talked about in this last episode, celebrating these moments where I'm noticing, and I guess I was making a lot of observations at 36 within the time before me turning 36. I was learning like I don't know who, what, where, I don't know the person, place, or thing, but whatever has taken away our ability to celebrate. And I'm not saying go buck wild. My goodness, we want you to be here on earth, but I'm saying we should be these certain days. Like, okay, in fact, this month is National Inventors Month. Let's celebrate that. Find ways to celebrate. You know what? I'm going to share this. There's this little calendar thing that I look at sometimes, and they have like different things you celebrate every day or whatever, or you can celebrate, like stuff like that, celebrating spring in May, celebrating mental health awareness in May, celebrating, my birthday. I don't know, but, just the celebrating of these small things, because there is those many celebrations help keep us grounded and pleased that there is some goodness happening. And I think, when you're good, it spills out and it affects another person, the grass, the tree, everything. It's an energy. Anyway, happy May, happy birthday. Okay. Song of the day is Anything Worth Having by Blue Nightmare. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Cotton Candy Clouds podcast. Everything is going to be all right, because when your head is in the clouds, there's always something sweet to think about.